Hello, lovelies. I am so happy to welcome you back to Writer Wednesday. So as I mentioned last week, we're going to be talking about writing an elevator pitch and how to create an elevator pitch that really both could connect with your readership and also with agents and editors and really communicate the heart of your story. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. As I mentioned last week, just a little bit of review on the discussion of premise. And if you didn't get the chance to watch that, I'll be posting that link as well as soon as this live video training is over, and that way you can review that as well. You can find that on my Katie Phillips Creative Services page. So feel free to look at that as well. So quick review of premise. So your premise is your character's goal plus the obstacle that they're facing. Okay, so this is what drives the plot of your story. This also drives your character arc and really continues creating that ongoing tension that is going to propel your story and make your story dynamic. And I gave a couple of different examples last time as well of how this plays into your story. But I'm not going to repeat myself there. We're just going to go ahead and dive into elevator pitch. Something that I really want to touch on real briefly is that there tends to be a lot of confusion at the difference between a premise and an elevator pitch. Are they the same thing? You know, how are they connected? The answer is they are connected, but they are not the same thing. So your elevator pitch should include your premise. Okay, so that's very important because your premise is really the heart of your story, what your story is really about. And so if it doesn't include the premise, you're leaving out some key information. Okay, so your elevator pitch should include your premise, but it should also include some other details about your characters and your setting, which I'll get to in just a second. Definition of an elevator pitch. So kind of where this phrase comes from is the idea that if you were in an elevator with an agent or an editor and you struck up a conversation and they asked, you know, what is your story about, right? Okay, so that's the question that everyone asks, what is your story about? You would be able to answer that question in a clear and in a succinct way. Okay, so sometimes I always ask for elevator pitches in my manuscript consult so I can get a feel for both how clear an author is on their on their story, and also just to get a feel for the heart of their story as well, and if it's missing kind of any key elements. And so your elevator pitch is not only important for pitching to an editor and agent, but it's also really, really important that this is clear in your head, because this is also what's going to be driving your marketing. So everything went from graphics to your Facebook posts to any kind of branding and marketing that you're going to be doing around your book and your story is going to start with and come from your elevator pitch. So this is why this is really important to get this clear and succinct. Sometimes I get back elevator pitches that are, you know, a couple paragraphs long. And while that can be a good place to start, that's not actually going to be super helpful, because most people, potential readers, agents, editors, etc., when they say, what's your story about, they're not going to want to listen to this sort of monologue about your story. And usually that's an indication that it's not really clear enough in your head yet. Okay, make sense? Anyone who's watching, if you could just give a like or whatever when I finish each section, that way I know that I haven't completely confused you. So, great. Okay, moving on. So your elevator pitch, as I said, your premise is going to be kind of the foundation of your elevator pitch. So you're going to have your character goal and your character obstacle and kind of some details to fill in. So you're going to kind of start with some details about your character, okay? So that may be, and these don't need to be like, this is their eye color, this is their hair color, that kind of thing. These are things about your character that will give clues about the genre and the type of story, okay? So if you say, my main character, you know, she's a college student, okay, then that gives kind of a clue both about the stage of life and situation that the character is in, and also her age and probably the intended readership of the book. Now, if you said, okay, my character is a 16-year-old high school student, you know, who witnesses the end of the world, then we know that it's going to probably be a YA dystopian type of book. Okay, do you see how that works? So these are going to be key details that give clues, so you don't have to say this is a YA dystopian that, you know, is about this high school student witnessing the end of the world, unless, you know, that's basically all you have to say. But so things like sex, things like age, if they have a particular challenge or disability, so maybe it's someone who was born without a hand and they're learning to play the piano. Okay, so that would be a key and relevant fact about your character that ties in directly to the plot. So you have your character, and kind of with this as well, you have your character's goal. So you have your character, you have your character goal. Now we're going to move on to the obstacle, okay? So you don't necessarily need to go into a lot of detail, again, because this should be short, like 1 to 3 sentences at most, and not like super long sentences, so clear and succinct. So what is the obstacle that they're facing? Is it an internal obstacle, some kind of trauma that they've been through? Is it you know, who is your villain? Who's keeping them from achieving their goal? And maybe that's internal and maybe that's external, okay? And this also includes and must include the stakes of your story, okay? So what are the ramifications of them not accomplishing their goal? You know, maybe it's that the world ends, maybe it's that they never see their family again, maybe it's, you know, whatever that happens to be for your story, their kingdom explodes and falls into war, whatever. There needs to be very real ramifications for them not accomplishing their goal to communicate to your editor and to potential readers that there are real stakes to them not accomplishing their goal, and that creates tension as well. Okay, so you have key details about your character, you have you know, your character's goal, what are they wanting to accomplish, what do they want more than anything. And usually it's best if that is something that is both internal and external as well. So more than anything, they want a home and a family, or maybe they want acceptance, and they think that they can get that through becoming part of this elite fighting force. Okay, does that make sense? Maybe they're like an orphan, and so they find family in this another type of community. So you have those details about your character, you have your obstacle, that includes your villain, that includes your stakes, the ramifications of them not accomplishing their goal, okay? The other kind of key component of this is to have some clue as far as setting and the type of story. Again, this will kind of indicate the age, indicate the genre. If you're talking about you know, a fantasy world or something like that, indicating that in your elevator pitch is going to be really important, because it doesn't create a false idea in someone's mind. So maybe your story is like a quest fantasy about this you know, teenager who has to travel to another land to attend this magic school. And But in your elevator pitch, you just say that it's about this teenager and she has, to make a trip and she wants to attend this school, for her future career. Okay, so that's part of the story, but it's kind of missing the key elements of, oh, okay, this isn't another world. This is a fantasy story. That aspect is really gonna affect your audience and your editors and agents. And so where these all kind of elements have to come together in a clear and succinct way. But you also have to make it interesting, right? And that's where the rub really comes in, because all of these elements need to be in place for editors and agents to consider your story. Okay, so a little bit of background for me. Some of you know that I'm the managing editor for Crosshair Press, which is an indie publisher, and we publish speculative fiction as well as several other genres. And in that role, I have been to conferences and took pitches and that kind of thing quite a bit. And something that I always looked for and I always asked for was an elevator pitch, because it told me very quickly whether that person had the key elements of story, right? Did they actually have a premise? Or was it just this happened and then this happened and this happens? Does that make sense? So this is a key element that we're going to be looking for, but also, can you tell it in an interesting way? Okay. Sometimes that's in the form of a question. Sometimes it's in a unusual juxtaposition. So it kind of begins by them thinking, oh, it's going to be this type of story, and then you kind of add a twist at the end. So maybe it's like, so one of my current books that I'm working on is a urban fantasy about a girl who finds out that she can read minds, and so she is going to this school in northern England to learn how to manage her gifts, right? Okay, so there's nothing particularly unusual about that. It's super fun, it's super whimsical, great themes about friendship and that kind of thing, but it's not that unusual particularly. However, it's also set in World War II era England, so there's also elements. Hitler is very fascinated with magic and the magic and mythology kind of element of it, and looking for people who could use magic. And so I've incorporated that into this story to create a historical element that makes it unique and gives it a little bit of a different twist. So that's one way to kind of do that. So think about that and how you can bring that out as well in your elevator pitch. Okay? I'm sure you probably have specific questions about your elevator pitch, so I just want to give you the opportunity to get some feedback on that. So feel free to post in the comments with your elevator pitch, and I will give feedback as I am able and encourage other people in the community to give constructive and encouraging feedback as well if you would like to do that. So there is that opportunity available to you. And some of you might have seen as well about my new Facebook group. So this is a community that I've created for women entrepreneurs, so who are working at building their creative writing business. So I've been doing author coaching and editing, and I'm kind of expanding my reach a little bit to help women learn how to create a strategic business plan and to really create breakthrough, whether that's in their writing craft or in building their writing business. And so there's going to be a lot more information about that. We're going to be talking about time management and how to identify your ideal client, all sorts of good stuff. So you won't want to miss out on that. I will be posting a link to that Facebook group in the comments as well. So feel free to take a look at that and join if that's something that you are interested in doing. All right. So next week, we're going to be kind of stepping away from the writing craft and looking more at the writing business side, although this will be applicable for your writing projects as well. So next week, we're going to be looking at setting goals for the new year. It's going to be coming up quickly, and so we're just going to be talking about how to prioritize your goals, how to set realistic goals, and action steps, and kind of break those down so you really start seeing momentum and growth in your writing craft and business in 2018. So thank you so much for watching. Feel free to post any questions in the comments and to tag friends who might be interested. So thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.